Welcome back to Outer Wilds. After the previous videos, I got some pretty good questions from the audience, and one of those questions was, why do we like these astronauts? We don't talk to them much, but when they show up at the end of the game, they make us cry, like the player cries. How in the world did the writers pull that off? Well, let's talk about it. It's not really a technique that anybody can do, not like some of the other stuff I try and cover, but it is a very powerful setup, and it's well worth discussing. So let's do that. And obviously, spoilers. All right. So the first thing you have to realize is that there is no astronaut. There are only astronauts. And what I mean by that is that every single astronaut is clearly part of the astronaut whole. They're clearly part of a collective of people that are all doing the same things at the same time, no matter that they're separated by vast distances of space. They all sit around the campfire, roast marshmallows under the trees, under the stars. They all play their instrument. They're clearly playing different parts of the same song. It's not like anybody would think that this is a standalone song. This is not a song. This is not a song. They're clearly playing parts of a larger song. That is very powerful. That is something where, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, your brain realizes that this is not the astronaut church. This is part of the astronaut collective. This is part of a larger whole. Someday, maybe you'll see all of these people around the campfire playing together. It's set up that way. And whether it's consciously or subconsciously, your brain will notice. This is especially true because it is a multisensory assault. It's not just the visual, it's also the audio. This is a very powerful way to set things up, and it means that when the end of the game comes and the things start to fall together, you can finally get that sense of completion. You can see that these people who are separated by planets, by vast distances of space, they're finally coming together. They're finally all in the same place, all working at the same time. And then you realize, oh shit, they've always been in the same place. They've always been working together at the same time. Because the distances of space don't mean anything. That, however, is less than half of the story. There is something more important about this, and that is the ending of the game. I've talked about Psychedelic SciFi several times on my channel, usually talking about how poorly done it is in some of these games, and if you go and watch those videos, you'll see that I say things like, this is not doing Psychedelic SciFi right, and I sometimes give examples of movies and stuff, but this game is probably the best Psychedelic SciFi game I've ever seen, because it knows when to deploy its drug trip. At the end. I've said many times that Psychedelic SciFi is not about the world that you're in, it's about the person having the trip. The whole point is to crumple the entire universe that you've been experiencing into that character's head and have them realize that it's not separate from them. They're the universe. The universe is them, and their brain gets blown, and the player's brain gets blown, and the whole audience gets their brain melting out of their ears. No. It's not a plot twist. It's simply a progression. You see, at the end of this game, you basically have a drug trip. You talk to the universe itself, and then you realize that you are alone. You're not just alone. You're alone. The universe is dead. You're in a place where no life has ever been. The concept of life cannot even exist in the place you're in, and there's nothing else here. You get to feel a level of loneliness that games cannot normally achieve because the psychedelic elements allow them to heighten that sensation. If it was just like a non-psychedelic ending, then you wouldn't get that punchy emotional weight. You wouldn't feel as alone as you feel, and you feel alone. If you have not witnessed the ending of this game, you are missing out. Even just audience members will feel intensely alone. Even if there's someone else talking, like an LPer talking over the ending, the audience will feel alone. That's how powerful the psychedelic trip in this game is. It's wonderful. And it's bleak, and it's horrifying, and you're sitting there alone. There's nothing. No sounds, nothing. Just you alone. And then you hear something. And one by one, your friends come out of the woods. You're not alone. Everyone is with you. Everyone has always been with you. And at last, the circle is complete. A literal circle. A circle of musicians around a campfire. The game builds up this incredible sense of loneliness. And then it breaks it. And then it breaks it again. And then it breaks it again. And then it breaks it again. Until your entire concept of what loneliness means is gone. It takes the concept of loneliness and it crumples it up and it throws it in the bin. And it turns a bleak ending into one of the most beautiful endings ever. The fact that you don't really know these people, the fact that these people are not your friends, is almost irrelevant. Because the ending is about the fact that you are or aren't alone. It's not about who you met. It's not about how you feel about these people you're sitting with. It's about something deeper than that. It's about the nature of life. Now, that sense of loneliness would be harder to break. It would be broken a lot more weakly if these characters weren't part of a collective that could be gathered up and put all around the circle and all work together. If it was just a bunch of zany astronauts you met while you were out adventuring, then while they would break that sense of loneliness, it wouldn't build. Each additional astronaut wouldn't add more to the chorus. It would just be, oh, well, I broke the sense of loneliness, and I guess now I'll just gather more people, and the loneliness will stay broken. But because these people gather around the campfire, and you hear their song emerge instrument by instrument, the silence is broken over and over. The loneliness keeps breaking. It keeps dissolving. And it goes on way, way longer than you expected. And that's how you do a psychedelic sci-fi ending. It's not about the magic tech widgets. It's not about a plot twist. It's about the resolution of someone's core beliefs, someone's personal emotions and their life story. It's about making the entire universe echo their personal journey, folding it all up into their head and then unfolding it and watching it leak out of their ears. That is what psychedelic sci-fi is about. That's why I still love psychedelic sci-fi, despite the many completely failed attempts to duplicate it. Problem is, you have to be really good. Still, it's a really fun experiment to try and do on your own, and it's a really fun setup here in the game. And there are other details we could talk about, but that's the big one. That's the core of how this works. Thanks for listening.